about it. And we're now joined by former Baylor star and PGA champion, PGA Tour player, Jimmy Walker joins us with Craig Paul and David Smoak. Jimmy, thank you very much for your time. I can't imagine what the last 24 to 30 hours have been. You and I traded some texts yesterday. Players found out about this apparently in an email. What was your initial reaction, and were you completely blindsided like it seems everybody else was?
Hey, guys. Yeah, pretty wild morning. I was sitting on a plane, and I got this email coming in from the commissioner, and it looked like a bulk email from the tour, and read it, and I was just kind of like, wow, this is pretty incredible. And then I texted a couple of players, and nobody really knew yet because, it was so fast. Like, I literally saw it pop up right when they sent it. And, yeah, just pretty incredible. Not what I think the bulk of the tour members thought would happen, for sure.
After you've had 24 hours and people have talked about it, where do you sit on it? I mean, look, it's inevitable. You have to deal with it now. It's not something you had a say in, but where do you sit with it now?
Yeah, I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. Obviously, they were very adamant that was the enemy, and they were never going to do any kind of deal with them. And we were all pretty cool with that. And it was sad to see a couple of people go, and friends, and you just never really thought you'd play much golf with them ever again. And these guys took big paychecks, and that's where I think a lot of us sit is, you're going to let these guys come back, and they got big checks. And what about us that stay? What about us that have given our entire lives and careers to this tour? And, what it really did is we always thought we just never really had much say so in kind of what went on with the tour. And this really just solidified that for all of us, I think.
Do you feel betrayed?
I'm not going to say I feel betrayed. I'm just really disappointed, especially the fact that, we weren't consulted on any of this. And, it was said in the meeting, yesterday that if they would have consulted us, what would have happened? We said, well, it wouldn't have passed. And I said, exactly. So right there, that just kind of tells you where you sit in the grand scheme of things. Lots of unanswered questions. I don't know how guys feel about, the tour made a big deal about Saudi and Saudi money and, their reputation. And, now we don't have a choice in the matter. We know where the bulk of this money's coming from now. And, it's just real interesting. And it was so just out of the blue, honestly, just wow.
Jimmy, I know there was the players meeting, and I'm sure everybody is trading text or talking to each other. Was there ever the discussion, you think, or have you even heard or thought about anything unionization when it comes to the PGA Tour players?
There's always been talk of that, but they've really hammered down on us that we're sole proprietors and we can play in whatever we want and this and that. And it's just nothing's really ever materialized. But now that this is happening, and I think there's going to be a bigger, longer look at doing something like that. It really feels like we just don't have much protection, especially when you see a giant move like this happen without any kind of feedback from us. We have a player advisory council that we elect every year, and nobody knew. The one player that sits on our board, Webb Simpson, found out 30 minutes before the email came out. We just don't have much say in what goes on. And that's really evident now.
Yeah, Jimmy, it would seem to me that you guys are in a more unique situation than almost any other sport in that, especially PGA Tour players with their card, it's like, 125 plus exemptions every year. So it's not like the NBA has 1,000 guys. The NFL has, 53 guys a roster, and Major League Baseball and so on and so on. So other professional athletes have these large groups. You guys are a really small group comparatively to other professional athletes and have less of a say than all of them, which is kind of strange to me.
Yeah, it's just the way it's kind of always been. And I think it may be changing. It's still super early, and I'm off this week, and I'm not playing, and so kind of missing all the fireworks going on. I'm hanging out with my kids, and we played golf today, me and my oldest, and just kind of stayed away from it for now. I'll circle back here in just a little bit and kind of maybe take more of a deep dive with my agents and people I trust and see what they've got to say. I mean, I know that the meeting was very heated last night. There were lots of calls for the top brass, Monahan, and a couple other guys to just flat out leave. I think a lot of guys feel betrayed. A lot of guys feel that they can't trust them anymore, and that's kind of sad.
Jimmy, in the NFL or in most professional sports leagues, the commissioner is hired and works for the owners. On the PGA Tour, I believe the commissioner works for the players. But now, if in fact there was an uprising with Monahan, not saying there is, but obviously some people are heated, he now even has an additional title to where he is on this, whatever it is. That's kind of like, hey guys, sorry, but also I'm protected. You can't fire me.
Yeah, new CEO of a company that doesn't have a name yet, and I'm sure there was a big pay raise, and it's interesting, and we still are playing every week for your paycheck. There are cuts, and you got one of the best jobs in sports, and you don't make a dime from the people you play for. I mean, right out of the gate. And we've always kind of fought with that. And, maybe that's something else to look at now too. A lot of big changes, I think, are really, really getting to start happening here pretty quick, I think.
And we appreciate you giving us some time. I know we want to let you get back to your family, but we have a few more questions. For example, Jimmy Walker, where you have come from, because you've really had a pretty successful start to this year. You do have what you've done in your career, including a major championship. So let's just say they offered you. I don't know if LIV contacted you. I know they contacted a lot. But would you then accept any money from whoever it is, PIF, if they said, okay, your ranking based on what we gave somebody else to join LIV was X amount of money? Do you feel like you deserve that, or others who could have gone to LIV?
I feel like, yes, I do feel like that I have, in the grand scheme of golf and my career. And I think that at certain times in my career, I was more valuable to the tour in other times in my career. And I know that that's how a lot of these players feel. A lot of players did get big paycheck offers from LIV, and they decided to stay. And what are they going to do about that? Guys turning down, whatever Tiger got offered, $800 million or whatever he got offered to go play, he turns that down. Now all these other guys that took these giant checks get to come back, and I don't know what the reprimands are going to be. And, I do know that they said there was verbiage that said, players will be able to come back on the disciplinary actions of each said tour, right? So I know that when a player decided to leave and go play the LIV, that each tournament they played was a 9-month suspension. So you can go do the math on all the players that have played and how many tournaments they played. If that's something that they hold up to, then you wouldn't see those guys for very long. But, what a lot of the guys talked about last night is it is now a for-profit organization, and it is not profitable to have, some of the best players in the world that left go sitting on their ass. And that's where the big rift is between the guys that stayed, I think, and the guys that left. I haven't heard anything from any of the guys that left. I know they're probably pretty stoked that they got to double dip. And that's what pisses the rest of us off.
Jimmy, what will the relationship mending have to be between those guys? I mean, you guys play an individual sport anyway, but there are Ryder Cups and all these other things that people will be a part of where you need to have a good team concept and going forward and chemistry and all those things. And just for, happiness in your professional life on tour, you don't want to constantly for years and years be having people at odds. Is that going to take some time for the guys who left that are now coming back, whatever disciplinary stuff happens, to mend those fences?
I don't know. I don't have any ill will towards the guys that took off. I mean, I really don't. They knew the repercussions of what they did, right? And what's really the bummer part is that you've got the PGA Tour, who you thought was protecting you and thought that was protecting the game and what we've all played for and stood for. And, the comment, you'll never have to apologize for being a PGA Tour player. Mm-hmm. Now it's kind of like, well, maybe we have to now. Are we going to get yelled at? Are we going to, who knows what's going to happen? I feel bad for RBC this week in the Canadian Open, having to deal with this, U.S. Open next week. I mean, it is all anybody really is probably going to be talking about, especially them coming out. And, I mean, there's no details. It's just like, it looks like a handshake deal, and we don't know what the heck's going on. Honestly, I mean, I really don't know. I mean, I would think that LIV Golf is going to go away, and, they will completely back the PGA Tour.
Jimmy, do you feel like,
that's my guess.
Yeah, do you feel like, for example, the players that LIV, Brooks Koepka took care of his own business by winning the PGA, played well at the Masters, and some other guys have played well to earn invitations or because they've won majors back into tournaments like with you in the PGA Championship. But do you feel like eventually they were also on their end sinking because they were not earning world ranking points, and that eventually that was just going to kill them because you can't get into tournaments unless maybe you're a major champion, etc.?
Oh, 100%. They were just slowly going to, just slide off the world rankings because they weren't getting points. And, that is a big deal. And that's what they were fighting hard for. And, a 54-hole tour, no cut. I mean, it is just completely different than anything professional golf's ever done. And, one of the big bummers here was how reactionary the PGA Tour was to all this. It was like we found all this money and dipped in all these reserves and started spending all this money to keep players to stay. And I mean, it's just, nothing seemed to be very proactive about this whole thing. And it just seems to be completely mismanaged and, taken a hard stance, and now we've completely backed out of it. And it just, I don't know. I think it just makes us look like a bunch of idiots. And it really has nothing to do with anything that I myself or any of the guys that didn't leave. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, there's literally nothing we can do about it, I don't think, at this point, because it's done, and here we go.
If you don't mind me, one more question about your game. You have played well. I know that didn't go well at the PGA Championship with the miscut, but that was a brutal course. But you've had a nice run, and not every week, but you've had a nice run. Do you feel like your game is close? Because you've had to fight back from the Lyme disease and, not playing a lot. How do you feel about your game right now?
I feel good about it. I'm driving it better than I really ever have, and switched to a new ball. I picked up a lot of speed, and I've been hitting my short irons a little too far, mid irons a little too far. Switched to a new ball and really like what's going on. I still, the final piece of the puzzle for me is just the head a little bit after Lyme disease, and it's affected every part of my body, and including my brain. And it sounds weird, but just things are a little different. And man, I'm close. I'm stringing together more good rounds. Making a few more birdies, and Hilton Head was great. We were right there with I had 54 really good holes. It's just a matter of kind of just cleaning that up, and we'll be right there. I'm excited and ready to play Travelers, and probably won't miss a tournament the rest of the year after that. So.
Last question for you. Do you regret at all not joining LIV if you had the opportunity, or is this just the way it was going to be and you're still proud of the decision you made?
Well, David, in my position, I wasn't playing well, and everybody knew that. I mean, I didn't get an offer, but at 44 years old, I mean, if they'd offered me, if I'd have gotten, a nice check, after tax, like, you'd have to take a really hard look at it. And you could go out there, and if you play well, you could. I mean, the amount of money you could make was insane. So, I've looked at it and thought about it, and it was more of just it was a move for my family, and it would have been the best thing for us. And I think it would have been in the cards, but it just wasn't for me at the time. And, if I was some of these kids that were, 27, 8 years old, 30 years old, that were just rocking and rolling on the PGA Tour, I mean, I can't imagine leaving that, but I just feel like, what were they out playing for every week? I mean, they were just basically exhibitionists out there playing. It didn't really mean anything in the history of golf, and that to me was kind of sad. And I think that's what I would have missed the most, was a chance at, something like that. More history, I guess.
Jimmy, thank you. You're brutally honest. You always have been. You gave us truth serum, great insight, good luck going on. And sorry about interrupting kind of a downtime with the biggest story perhaps in golf history. But, man, you lit it up today. We appreciate your time.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you all.
Jimmy Walker, PGA Tour Pro.